Okay, all right. Well, tonight, gotta tell you, I'm so excited talking about this church that we're going to talk about tonight. But that being said, I want to get your minds thinking about a few things first, all right? So, first thing first. What are you scared of? Think about that. Clowns. Okay, no joke. Like, look, it is like the scariest thing ever. It's a spider that turns into a clown, right? I'm like, this is the most creepy, or clown that turns into a spider. I'm like, this is like tripped out, messed up stuff right there. Okay? Think about what you're afraid of. What are things that you're afraid of? You know? We decided to go in earlier today and find a few pictures and things to make you think. Some people might be afraid. I'm one of those. I will just straight up say it. I'm afraid of snakes. Just calling it out. Man, when we were down in Peru, I held an anaconda, and the only reason I held this anaconda, let me be clear, is because I was not going to be that guy that was going to be like, no. I had like all these people watching, and I'm like, and I knew, like the Clover Dance girls, they were going to be touching it, so I'm like, okay, I am not about to let them show me up. Give me that anaconda right now. And of course, the whole time, I'm just like, breathe. You know, me and Maddie laid down, it was right between us, and it was kind of looking at me a little bit. Somebody thought that Ben was about to get a job increase, become the high school pastor instead of his position he is right now, because I was about to become lunch, you know, and the sucker had eaten, but I knew it had more room to spare because it was stretching out a little bit. I'm afraid of snakes on a plane. Creepiest movie in my mind ever. It's like a bad car wreck, though. I had to watch it. Mind you, it was on TV when I watched it. But I was freaking out. You know what I mean? Like totally freaking out. Some people are afraid of spiders. Okay? You can call me in my house. I can hear, and I'm going to throw everybody in my house under the bus. I can hear my wife. I can hear Jenna. And I can hear Ben. All about the same pitch. Might I add. When a spider, maybe the size of my pinky nail, decides to come out and say hi. They freak out. And I mean, it's a high pitch. I could be here at the church. Man, we live down in Walden. I could be here at the church. And I'm telling you, I hear them screaming. It's true. And I got to go turn around and kill me a spider. Some people might be afraid of giraffes. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. Can this giraffe do anything? No. Can a picture do anything? No. This giraffe will not bite you. That picture will not bite you. But I've heard that some people can be afraid of that. Some people are afraid of the dark. Some people are afraid of the dark. And you just freak out. It's like, I can't do this, I can't do this, I can't do this, right? Seriously. We have all kinds of weird things. Some of you are like afraid of the lunch lady at school. I don't know. But, true stories in the house. But hear me. We get afraid. And I wonder why. Like, I know for me, like when I travel overseas sometimes, go back to, the whole giraffes thing. We only see those in Uganda. FYI, for those of you that want to go to Uganda next summer, we only see them when we go to this wildlife exhibit, and you only see them there if you go to the certain spot where they're at. Otherwise, you will never see a giraffe. They're not just like walking down the street. Okay? But every time I go overseas and stuff like that, we first get on the planes. Seriously, true story. I will just stop, take a breath, and pray when it's finally on that time about to just get on that runway and take off. I always just stop and pray. Because for whatever reason, man, we could be in the air for hours and I could care less. I'm good to go. Landings, whatever. There's something about the takeoff that I'm like, I got to pray real quick, get my mind focused that I know who has me in his hand and we are good to go. But I have to do it every time. Of course, sometimes driving down 1960, I think I need to take a breath, pray before I get on 1960. Right? Some of y'all that drive don't even play. So every day, I think today we saw like 2 different accidents, crazy. But think about this. Snakes on a plane. When I was like seeing that movie, why in the world am I freaking out? Like, is that snake really going to come through the TV screen and come at me? People like to post, and by the way, thank you for doing so. I'm probably going to get in trouble for saying that, but thank you for doing so. People like to post spiders, for whatever reason, on Facebook sometimes. And Lisa will she showed it, I hear her freaking out. I'm like, I must have posted a spider. She shows it to me, and I'm like, that's cool. I don't get really fazed by that. And then she shows it to everybody else in the house, and the pitches, again, high decibels. And that's what I'm thinking, why are you afraid of a spider in a picture? What is it going to do? I mean, Jenna, man, she was in middle school. She's like, hey, I want to sign off on this thing. Maybe even elementary school. I want to sign off on this thing so I can hold this tarantula. And Lisa's like, she's freaking, Lisa, you're not holding a tarantula. Jenna is, not you. But Lisa's seriously, breaking out into a cold sweat. It won't affect her. It won't touch her. It won't even see her. The dark. When you went in your room, did you see what was in your room when you went in your room? Yes. So when you turn the light switch off, nothing really changed. Tell you what, you know how to know if it changes? If the door opens and light comes in, something might have changed. But until that moment happens and you hear that, until that moment, you don't need to be afraid. Somebody's going to hear that tonight when they're laying down in bed and go, I hate David. But seriously, what do you have to, you know what the room looks like before you turn the light switch off. Why are you afraid? We get afraid of all kinds of random things. But now let's bring it a little bit more. Some of us get absolutely just mortified afraid. Mortified. You know we're in Texas, we don't say mortified, right? Mortified, afraid of going up to that one person that's all by themselves. And seriously, just thinking about going up to that one person by themselves, we're shaking, going, as though something's going to happen. And honestly, what if something did? Whatever. But we just freak out. What do we have to lose? But we get so nervous. We get so freaked out. We're so afraid to go tell somebody, hey, can I tell you about Jesus? And we think to tell somebody about Jesus, we just get petrified. Why? Why? Because in reality, think about it. I talked about Lisa. I can't help it. You talked about who you love. If I were scared to tell somebody about Lisa, seriously, what's the problem? What in the world is the problem? Why would I be afraid to tell them about her? And honestly, they're like, well, I don't want to hear about her. Oh, well. Because I still love her, regardless of what they think. I'm not going to be rude to them. But same thing with Jesus. Can somebody rejecting you telling them about your faith, that's just their opinion. That's cool. But we get so freaked out like something may happen. And then we start to box ourselves because of our fears. We start to box ourselves into this little corner where we're all by ourselves. Because I guarantee you, in a room like this right now, actually, we're just going to do it. How many of you, honestly, up until a moment ago at least, how many of you would say, by raising your hand, that yes, to go up and tell somebody at school that you would see constantly, I'm not talking about going on some mission trip, somebody in the environment that you're in, that for you to go up and tell them about Jesus, it literally scares you to go do that. How many of you know that you've walked through that moment? Raise your hand. Come on, own it. If that's you, own it. Own it. Look around. I mean, for real, just own it. You know what I'm saying? Don't be like, own it. Know who you are, baby. Right, look around. And yet, for some reason, a lot of us feel like, I'm probably the only one that feels this way. Everybody else is like the great Christians, and I'm just the only one afraid to go share my faith. No, you ain't alone, baby. You ain't alone. It's what you do with that affects who you are. It's okay to be afraid, but what you do with that is what really affects who you are. Kind of like the snake thing. When I held that anaconda in Peru, seriously, they had people right there that were going to take care of business if something needed to happen. While I was kind of taking a breath, do you know that the more I was around it, I was kind of fine? In the beginning, but as time went on, I was better about it. You never overcome fears until you start to deal with the fears. You just don't. That's reality. When you feel like you're the only one dealing with certain fears, now all of a sudden everything changes. Especially if the fear that you have is because of your faith. If the fear that you have is because of your faith. Because you know what? The reality is, if you stand up for Jesus, there's a lot of times everybody will absolutely mock you. If you stand up for Jesus, there are people that are probably going to be like, you know what? That's cool that you're doing the church thing. Check. Good for you. But we're going to go party and do our thing. That's going to happen. But you're not alone. And you still have to keep moving forward. The second church that we're going to hit from Revelation is Smyrna. And I love how Jesus comes to these people and just straight up, man, Revelation 2, verse 8. Look what he says. And it's just, man, it's a beautiful thing. Revelation 2:8. He introduces himself and he says, to the angel of the church in Smyrna write, these are the words of him who is the first and the last, who died and came to life again. You catch that? These are the words of him who is the first and the last, who died and came to life again. Here's how he introduces himself to the people. And I want you to think about this for a second. Man, because tonight's message really only has 4 verses in this church. But I want you to grab this. First thing he says, straight out of the hat, is, I'm the first and the last. What does that say to you? I'm the first and the last. What does that say to you? Huh? What does it mean to be the first? I was here before anybody else was. Because really, if you're running a race and you're first to the finish line, you are there before anybody else, right? Right? Come on. Okay? First. Jesus said, I'm the first. I was there before anybody else. Before anything came to me, yep, I was there. I was first. And the last. Which means what side? Like the end, like he's the bookend, you know what I'm saying? Like, he's on both sides. If he's the first and he's the last, what does he obviously then know? Everything in between. That's where we fit in. Jesus tells these people, and you're going to see why in a second, but he tells this church, I'm the first and the last. I'm the one who died and came to life again. The grave, no power over me. By the way, I died, and they knew this, part of the gospel. I died for you. I died because while you were yet sinners, I died for you so that you could have that opportunity for salvation. The veil torn away. Boom. You can now go straight to God. All you have to do is confess with your mouth, Jesus is Lord, believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. Boom. I'm the one who died and I came to life again. I have power over the grave. He starts out with that. Why? Because Smyrna, the town, the city, was a city with great trade going on, great wealth. These people in this city, man, they were loaded. Loaded. Except for the Christ followers. The Christ followers were the poorer of that community. Because a lot of times for people to get ahead, not a whole lot has changed. Hello. People would do whatever it took to get ahead. No matter who they had to step on. No matter what morals they had to kind of scoot to the side. Again, not a whole lot has changed, right? Isn't that what goes on sometimes today? This is a city of great wealth. And here are these believers. And I'm sure they're probably thinking, as we're going to get to in a second, they're probably thinking, do we even make a difference? Do we even matter? Think about it at your school. Ever fill out number? Ever fill out number? Maybe you're on the team, football team. Maybe you're on the freshman boys football team. And I'm wondering, how many believers, how many walking in Christ believers versus not in Christ people are on that team. Do you ever feel alone? Do you ever feel like there's just a small number? We're outnumbered. And then you think, does it matter? Does it even matter? Fast to see the high school, one of the biggest high schools here, we all know that. Okay, it's like a moving amoeba during passing period. Like, I don't know how you will breathe in the hallway. That's all there's to that noise, right? Okay, but it's a massive school, so I'll bring that one out. The amount of people that are actually walking in faith there versus people that probably have no clue who Jesus is, probably feel outnumbered. I remember Kinsey talking about how at Huffman, she kind of felt like she was one of the only ones until camp. Out in Huffman. We just feel outnumbered sometimes. And therefore, when you start to feel outnumbered, all of a sudden it's, do I even matter? You could be the lone cheerleader. You could be the drum major over a band that not one of them cares about Jesus Christ. You could be maybe that drill team captain and nobody on my squad cares. You could be on a baseball team where everybody kind of knows the name, but who knows if they really do know the name? Volleyball, you may be the only volleyball, but who knows your condition? Who knows the situation you're in? But it's easy to feel, does it matter? Do I matter? Right? Because how many of you have ever felt in situations dealing with your faith and would you really make a difference? How many of you have ever had that thing cross your mind of, do I really matter when it comes to that? Anybody? I have, straight out. We all have those moments. Moments. Don't let them become your entire person. Enter Jesus. I'm the first and the last. I know everything in between. I got this. Remember, I'm the one who died and I came to life again. I got this. You may be afraid of death. You may be afraid of death. Guess what? Grave ain't got no hold on me. Basically, it's almost like Jesus stepping out going, I've got you. I've got you. And then he goes to affirming his church, which is really cool. Verses 9 and 10. I know your affliction and your poverty, and yet you are rich. I know the slander of those who say they are Jews and are not, but are a synagogue of Satan. Do not be afraid of what you are about to suffer. And I tell you, the devil will put some of you to prison to test you. And you're going to suffer persecution for 10 days. And be faithful, even to the point of death. And I will give you the crown of life. Look what he starts off with in verse 9. I know your afflictions and your poverty, yet you are rich. I love what he says straight out. You think you're poor? Baby, you are rich. You are rich. You've got it all. Because you've got him. I'll tell you, when I've gone over to Uganda several times, and I see my boy, our compassion child over there, he lives in a house condition worse than the number of orphans that we've seen there. However, if you look at him, he does not carry himself like he is some random orphan, all dirty, ragtag, whatever. $38 a month. Boy is dressed. He is healthy. 5th grade wrote us his first full in English letter. When a couple years ago, boy could not even say hello in English. Wrote the first letter in English. And I imagine Jesus probably looking at him going, look how rich you are. And I can see Tindo right now going, I know that I'm rich. And if you were to come here, same living situation. If you were to come here, everybody would probably dog him and make fun of him because, man, he'd be lower than trailer park. You know what I'm saying? And yet Tindo, in his own opinion, he's one of the wealthiest kids over there because of what's in here. And he carries that with him everywhere he goes. And you see it. A lot of us sometimes think because we don't maybe have enough, we don't maybe have much, all these other people have all this whatever. They're better off than we are. No, they ain't. Just because somebody's rich doesn't mean they're rich. Let's be clear. Because by the way, we may not have a whole lot, but my father uses gold as asphalt. So when I get to heaven, the streets are paved with gold, not asphalt. That's my God I'm dealing with. That's my Father in heaven. Baby, I'm loaded. Whatever I need, when I need it, he'll provide it. And he may not give me all my wants. And that's actually not a bad thing, right? Because sometimes what I want may not necessarily be what I need. True story? And so God's like, that's cute that you want that, David. But wouldn't hold off on that gift right now? That'd be like Jenna saying, give me a car right now. That's cute. No. It's useless. But yet at the same time, we are so rich, you guys. So why do we as Christians walk around half the time moping? Why do we as Christians half the time walk around like, I don't know if God can do this? I have people tell me sometimes like, I just don't know if God's going to provide me the money to go on this trip or that trip or whatever. And I mean, all the rest, are you called to go? Well, yeah, I know I'm called to go. Well, then done. Done deal. If you're called to go because you're really paying attention to God and God says, I want you to go on this trip. What kind of sick God is going to say, I want you to go? I'm so not providing for her. Whatever. But really, what kind of work faith is that? If God calls, he's going to do it. By the way, if God calls you to go talk to somebody about Jesus, God called you, and you feel like, I don't have a right to say anything. The one who called you will qualify you. Straight up. Okay? Man, you're so rich. And then I love this. Man, I know the slander of those who say they're Jews and they're not. Man, they're at the synagogue of Satan. And Jesus kind of just calls that one out. So that Gentiles, not just Jews, to be clear for some of y'all that kind of have more of that kind of history knowledge and stuff like that in you. The Gentiles, that's us people that ain't Jews, they were actually being called the true Jews back then. Because, see, the Jews were God's chosen people. The Jews who didn't want to give their life to Christ, all of a sudden, they were basically considered they're lost. They're not there. And the ones who did give their life to Christ, completed Jews, if you will, them and these Gentiles that were coming to faith, they were calling them the true Jews. And what he's saying is, I know the people that are coming in playing church. That's exactly what he's saying. And I know they're coming in, and man, they're dogging you out, and they're giving you a hard time. And can I just tell you, I did not grow up in the church. A lot of y'all know that. I did not grow up in the church at all. And what gets me and drives me insane is when I see people, and I could care less what age they are. I see people come into church, and they start treating people like trash. And I'm thinking, what are you doing? What are you representing? Because you're not representing this. That is for sure. You are not representing the Word of God. You're not representing Jesus. In fact, it's because of those kind of behaviors a lot of people will never come to Jesus. True story. And what he's saying, man, I know, man, these people are beating you down. Because you know what? It's a whole lot easier for all of us in this room to say, you know what? Hey, we're going to do this, and we're going to do this, but our faith stops at this point. And Hayden, just so you know, don't you be pushing our limits of faith. Shh. Sit down and be quiet. We only want our faith to go so far. And then we're going to stop. When your faith has limits, you're saying, God, I limit you. If you're saying, God, I limit you, that means you think you have power over God. Pretty sure I don't want to be in those shoes, right? And Jesus is saying, man, you guys, hey, I know how you feel. I know when you feel beaten down by those who, honestly, they are not even of the faith. They are not of the faith. Now, he's not saying start pointing fingers. What he's saying is, I get it. Jack, I know those people that honestly, they're playing church. And I know. But I still got you. I've still got you. You follow that? And then he goes straight down into verse 10. He's like, man, don't be afraid of what you're about to suffer. Because I'm going to tell you, the devil will put you in prison to test you. And you're going to suffer persecution for 10 days. I love the clarity there. We'll go back. Be faithful even to the point of death, and I will give you the crown of life. A lot of people take that 10 days, and they want to take it to mean all kinds of different things. You know what I take 10 days to mean? This is really deep theological truth. You know what I take 10 days to mean? Don't think too hard. Come on. That's deep. 10 days means what? Now, we can go into whatever spiritual illustration you want to shoot into, but let's be clear. People turn around and go all which way on that. The truth of it is still the same. The truth of this is absolutely still the same. Hear me. You're going to suffer persecution. It's going to happen, and it's going to be temporary. Your 10 days may be somebody else's 30 days. Their 30 days may be your 1 hour. Your 1 hour may be somebody else's 10 stinking years. At the end of the day, you have eternity waiting. 1 hour, 10 years. Let's say you live to be the average human lifespan. It's all temporary, baby. The suffering and the persecution will end. It will end. Kind of makes you think a little bit all of a sudden. How long do you spend in high school? How long? In theory, 4 years, right? All right. 4 years in high school. Isn't it crazy how we let those 4 years of high school, some of us only have less than 1 left, or less than 2 left, less than 3. Really, all of you at this point are less than 4, because we are a month in. Hear me. It's amazing how we actually think that the person we may go share Jesus with, mind you, in word and in deed, the person that we share Jesus with, they may hate us forever. So I can't share Jesus with them. Really? The reality is, you see a handful of people from high school once you're out of high school. From organizations, maybe like your church, things like that, that's a little bit different. But honestly, from your school, you hardly see them. Ask graduates. They'll tell you. Because even with Facebook and Instagram and everything else, that's really not deep communication. True story. And honestly, if you're really that afraid to talk to somebody about Jesus, when you're out, I seriously doubt you're really thinking about them. That's probably a true story too. You're only in this short mission field for a short season. And that's it. And then it's over. And I love what he's saying. He's like, man, be faithful. Be faithful. Most of us are not going to have to be faithful to the point of death. Maybe the death of your pride. Ouch. Maybe the death of you getting a whole bunch of recognition. Maybe you're the star and you may have to step back. Maybe you're the one that always answers all the questions and you have to all of a sudden help others learn how to answer the questions. Maybe you're so used to everybody serving you, you got to go start serving. So maybe death of your pride. That's not a bad thing, actually. That's a pretty sweet thing. Not going to lie. Be faithful even to the point of death. Because, verse 11. Verse 11, I love this. Whoever has ear, let him hear what the Spirit says to the churches. The one who is victorious will not be hurt at all by the second death. Hear me. You will be victorious because you're not going to be hurt at all by the second death. First of all, Jesus gives over any charge to these people. His deepest charge to these people was, stay faithful, stay faithful, stay faithful. Don't give up. Stay faithful. And then I love this because he goes, the one who's victorious will not be hurt at all by the second death. Galatians 2:20. I have been crucified with Christ. I no longer live, but Christ lives in me. And the life which I now live in the flesh, I live by faith in the Son of God who loved me and gave himself up for me. What did that just say? If I gave my life to Christ, what did I do? I've been what? I have been what? Fourth word, baby. I have been crucified. Remember that not so pretty death? Whose choice was that to give their life to Christ? If I'm a believer, it's my choice, right? If you're a believer, that was your choice, right? I've already died once. I chose to die to myself, to give myself to Jesus. And man, these people back in the day, they knew that. We don't really feel the hits that they do back then. But man, I want you to grab this. I want you to take this. I want you to own this. I want you to really think about it. When you gave your life to Christ, did you truly mean, no matter what, He's got it? Or did you mean, as long as I'm still comfortable, as long as I can say a prayer and get a get out of hell free card, I'm totally going to be with Jesus? Why did you give yourself to Christ? Why did you turn around and say, hey, I need Him to be the Lord and the Savior of my life? Because if you did it for any reason other than, I need you to be my Lord. I need you, Jesus, to call the shots in my life. I need to step back and say, you can go before me, Jesus. And if that means I don't always get my way, sweet, because your way is better than my way. Because your thoughts are higher than my thoughts. So sweet. You think I don't need to do something, Jesus? Check. I trust you. Go ahead. If we don't live that kind of faith, we will always be affected by our fears. Now I'm going to dial it back. I was playing around about fears earlier. But I want you to think about something with me. If I were to ask you to go do blank, whatever that blank is, that's what I want you to think about in a second. What is it that I would ask you to do that would make you seriously have to go, would I surrender that to Jesus? Or would I not? Would I surrender that to Jesus? Or would I not? Think about that for a second. What's that blank? What's that spot of your, I'm comfortable in this area? What's that spot that if He said, get out of that you would really have to question, am I willing to stay more focused on Christ than anything else? What's that point for you? Are you there? Can you think about that one thing? I know for me, if God were to say that Lisa and I need to be willing to let Him take home Jenna and Jaden, that'd probably be pretty difficult. I don't know why. I'd be going, God, really? Why do you want to take my kids? Oh, wait. They're His. His ways are higher. His thoughts are higher. He must have a reason. True story? Hello? True story? We either believe it or we don't. What if God was about to change your whole world? What if God was going to look at you and say, you know what? You thought you were going this direction, and let me tell you what, you're not. You're actually going the whole opposite direction. Huh? Some of y'all know, because y'all know this, when Lisa got me this staff for my birthday a year ago, absolutely one of the best gifts I've ever received. There's no staff like it. These old people, way up in the Northeast, they make staffs, they do kind of woodworking type stuff. She contacted them, they went out to a tree, cut it, carved it, and then burnt in one of my life verses. Isaiah 41:10. So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will help you. surely I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. I thought of this verse over and over when I was thinking about this church for Revelation. And here's what I kept thinking over and over. Jesus is the bookend. He is the first and the last. He knows every element of my life already. Granted, he still gives me free will. He still gives me choice. He knows where I'm going to screw up, but absolutely he wants me to keep my eyes on him. Praise God for grace, right? But he's the first and the last. And he's the one with power over the grave. And I know for me, when there's moments that I'm freaking out thinking, I can't do this, Jesus steps up and reminds me, did you give yourself to me? Are you crucified with me? Therefore you no longer live, but I live in you. Then do not fear, for I am with you. Surely I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. Our perspectives, our vision messes with us so much. Remember what these people thought they were? They thought they were poor. And what were they really? What were they really? They were rich. They were rich. They didn't know what they had. They thought they didn't really matter. And Jesus is going, you matter. I know the game's being played. I know what's going on. But you know what? You're not alone. The difference is you can choose to be that martyr that's like self-made martyr. I'm all alone. Nobody cares. Or you can step up and go, I feel alone. But the reality is, even if physically I'm alone, maybe I am never alone. God's either with me or he's not. Last week, when we talked about Ephesus, and we talked about returning to the first love, not just living out faith as a religion, not just doing all the right things because you're supposed to do all the right things, but we talked about doing it because you love him. Well, man, in this church, it's all about, hey, I know you love me, now stay focused on me. Stay focused on me. One of my favorite songs really is the chorus that I love more than anything else. It's You Are Here. The same power. The same power that conquered the grave lives in me. The same love, watch me now, that rescued the earth lives in me. Do you get that? If you're a Christ follower, do you get that? You have power. If you're a Christ follower, you have power not to go beat down on people. You have power to get up instead of staying down. You have power to be able to do the right thing. You have power to be able to speak when it's time to speak. You have power to be able to rise when you need to rise and everybody else is just getting down. You have the power to stand. Because you've got the power to conquer the grave living in you. And catch me now on this one. The same love that rescued the earth lives in you. You also have that same love in you. And if there's those people that get on your last nerve, you know what I want to say to you? Awesome. Awesome. I'm so glad, Hannah, that maybe this group of people right here, you actually have to work to love them. That you actually have to be patient, because love is patient. You actually have to be kind, because love is kind. Ooh, you can't bear any record of wrongs. Because sometimes we want to bear a record of wrongs, right, y'all? Sometimes when somebody comes up, we want to remind them of all the stuff they did to us, right? I'm glad that you have to learn to love them. Right? Because the same love that rescued the earth lives in you. Jesus Christ lives in you. How do you speak to others? How do you affirm others? And when somebody blows it, how do you show them Christ's redeeming love? And when somebody aces it, how do you affirm them with that as well? Because it's all the same package. Go back to that psalm that we were singing earlier. Oh God, you are my God, and I seek you. With everything, I seek you. Those aren't just random little words. This church in Smyrna had to do it. We have to do it today. With everything, we have to seek him. And yes, sometimes that means we have to draw a line. Because sometimes that means I can't stand in the middle of that because I can't represent that. I would love that, but I can't represent that. Because I know who I represent. And if you're not seeking him with everything, I guarantee you, he'll find that crack. Well, actually, the enemy will find the crack that's part of your not everything. You follow? You want to give him, you want to seek Jesus with 99% of your life, I guarantee you the enemy will find 1%. Usually we advertise the 1%. True story? Usually we make it clear. This is where we struggle. So we already tell the enemy, this is where it is. He wants us to know, man, don't give up. Stay focused. No matter what, stay focused. Because I've got you. I'm surrounding you. I've got you. I've got it. And you will not be hurt by the second death. There's nothing to fear. I do not need to be afraid of no stupid snake. Now, some people may look and go, yeah, I'm still going to be afraid of a snake. And am I going to lie? If I saw a snake slither across right here, you may think a junior high boy is up on this stage. Puberty hidden, something like that. And I may fly a little bit. Okay? Because it's easy to say, don't be afraid. Right? Right? At the same time, isn't it true? We don't need to be afraid. Because reality is, and I'm not saying knock somebody when they're scared or something. Quit being stupid and scared. Don't do that, but love them through it. Love them through it. But hear me. Isn't that what faith is about? Isn't there only one place we're supposed to have fear? And that's with the Lord. Fear the Lord. That's the beginning of wisdom right there. But nothing else. Nothing else and no one else. Encourage each other with that. We're going to testify out with that song in a minute, but I want you to think about, as I get ready to pray, so go ahead and kind of tune everybody out. Do what you got to do. Close your eyes, bow your head, get on your knees, whatever. But I want you to tune everything out, everybody out, and I want you to start thinking, what's that area of your life that just wraps you up in fear? For some of you, it may be the fact that you've never had that first death. You've never died to yourself and given your life to Christ. Well, if that's the case, maybe that's an easy fix. You can give your life to Christ tonight. All you got to do is say that you know that he died on the cross for your sins. And ask him to come live in your heart. Ask him to be your Lord. Give all of your life to him. Talk to one of us and we will talk you through that. We will pray with you. If you really want to make sure that you've been crucified with Christ and you no longer live with Christ lives in you, you can do that tonight. But everybody else, just giving your life to Christ. What fears do you need to lay down? Who are you afraid to love? Who are you afraid to show that love to? That's the love of Christ. Where would you prefer to act weak instead of rise in the power of Christ who lives in you? And lay that stuff down because he wants you to lay it down for him. He gave his life for you to live in you, to be with you. He's got you. And the sooner this world sees that we know who has us, that our faith is real, even when we're weak, man, his grace is so sufficient that his strength, man, just gets made perfect in our weaknesses. So even when we're weak, they still see that he is with us. What do you got to do? What do you got to surrender? Talk to him about that right now. God, I thank you so much that we don't walk in the power of Christ that lives in us, that you redeem us, that you forgive us, and God, then that you remind us that Christ is with us everywhere we are, not just here at church, God, everywhere we are, because he lives within us. And Father, I pray that we would surrender our fears to you. That God, that we would not worry about what others may think or say, because we're reflecting you. If we're not reflecting you, we do need to be worried about what people are saying or thinking maybe. But God, I pray that when we truly are seeking you out with everything, Father, I pray that we would not worry about what others say. Instead, God, I pray that you would work on their hearts and draw them to you. We're not alone. We know you're with us. Help us stand in that truth. We know we can do that because of your son, Jesus.